In this video, we are going to discuss the differences between materials and smart materials and how you can use both of them to build up your texture maps. So if you open up this assets tab and make sure you see all the icons, the icon on the left is the materials icon and icon right next to that is the smart materials icon. Let's start with the materials. So for any material that you have here, they will mostly be used as fill layers as we've discussed earlier. So this little paint bucket icon, but basically you can, instead of using this icon, you can just drag in a material into your object. So this is mostly what you'll have. I do have some downloaded materials and some extra materials, but let's say I bring in a metal material into this object. I'm going to bring in metal galvanize. So this material comes in as a fill layer. You can use masks to control where this is placed, but basically this material has its properties. So that's going to have the one at the top usually is a random seed, which basically means that you can change how this appears. So if I click on random, you see that it randomly places that galvanized material look on different parts of the object. You sometimes have presets, so you can change the preset depending on what you're trying to make. And not all of these these materials are going to have presets, but you can change presets. You have some sliders that you can control, the color variation. So if I set that to 0, it's going to have a little less color variation. If I set that to 1, it's going to have more variation. I can make it shiny or I can make it rough. And you can change the grain for this particular one. So higher grain means more of this fake height type stuff, and lower grain is going to give you less of that. And you can also change the tiling. The more the tiling is, the smaller that material will appear. For most of the materials that you have, you do have to increase this tiling a fair bit until it looks right. And that depends on, again, it depends on how big your object is. So it's just a matter of looking at references and seeing how you could apply them to Substance Painter. So you have this material right here. All of these materials will have different properties. So if I remove this layer and I bring in a wood, let's say bamboo. Bamboo is going to again have different properties. You can change the wood color to whatever color you please. You can choose a preset, so that will make it look like a specific type of bamboo. Again, you have the random seed here to change the placement of those imperfections. You have knots somewhere on this material. So yeah, these are the knots. So you can make them less or more intense. The variation of fibers can be changed. And this one doesn't have a lot more stuff, but you can also change what attributes it's affecting. So you can use the properties, other properties like metallic roughness and height, and not have the color, or you can decide, oh, I don't want to use the metalness property and turn that off. So depending on what you want to accomplish, you might want to use only some properties of this bamboo wood varnish material. So this is basically how materials work. Then you have smart materials. Now, I would be careful about using these because generally, if it's a default Substance Painter smart material and you don't make enough changes to it, anyone who's used Substance Painter, even for a short amount of time, can identify exactly which smart material it is. And you do not want that because you don't want someone to look at your work and identify brushes or identify what asset you're using. But let's see how this works. I'm going to bring in a copper worn. So essentially, when you bring this in, you get a folder, and if you open that folder up, you have multiple fill layers. So you usually have a base, something that's making the material. This has color, metallic, roughness. You have some sort of additional thing that's added to it. a worn surface that has a mask editor that you can edit. I have not baked my maps, so I'm just going to do that because without the map baking, I'm not going to be able to see stuff that the smart material makes. So I'm going to bake my maps. Let it go through, return to painting mode, and take a look at this. So when you have a base, you usually have some sort of worn out surface. So in this case, it's this black thing, and I can go to my mask editor and edit that. These are created using the smart masks that we learned about last class, and you can go in and edit those smart masks to get what you want. And then you have a third layer right here with dirt, and you can again go into this dirt layer and edit. You'll notice that the dirt mostly affects the roughness, so as I change that, you can see how the roughness of this object changes. So this is copper worn. You have other smart materials. You probably have a paint. So you have steel paint. That'll have different folders within it. So you have a base again, you have details, and you have the paint on top. So no matter which one you use, you do have to do some customizations either on the main fill layer or within the mask so that you can make this material your own and customize it for your project needs.